And please click on either English or Spanish. And then we will get started. So hi everyone, I'm Nancy Rose Dufford. I'm the Executive Director for PEN. And as much as I like to say it's nice to see you, I wish we weren't having to do a program like this. And I'm really sad that even if we are doing a program like this, we're not seeing you in person. And hopefully we will be doing that soon enough. For those of you who aren't familiar with PEN, we are a network of more than 1,800 parents now who support and send our children to Pasadena Unified School District schools. And we support parents in 3 different ways. We help parents find the right schools for their family, and we know a lot of you have become affiliated with PEN through that. And then once you're in a PUSD school, we also provide programs and trainings that help parents engage more effectively with their students and their school. And then we also collaborate with PUSD leadership to advocate for educational equity and to bring the voice of parents to them as they consider their decisions. So because we're a small organization, we can adapt very quickly to the needs of parents. And one of the things that has been interesting for us this year is trying to stay in contact with parents as schools are closed. And so instead, what we've been doing is meeting with our PEN parent ambassadors on a regular basis online to kind of talk with them about what's going on with them, what's going on with their school, and what's going on with other families at their schools. So that way we could adapt our programs and our services to meet the changing needs of parents. And so this program tonight is actually a direct result of one of our meetings with our parents as they talked about the challenges that they've been facing and their children have been facing. And so last week we did a program for parents of elementary students on how to support your child's mental health. Not about their grades, not about academic achievement, but about their mental health. And tonight, what we're doing is we're going to be talking about secondary students. And then moving forward, we're also going to be doing a program for you, our parents, about how you can stay sane and how we can help you take care of your own mental health. Because if you don't take care of yourself, it's really hard to take care of the people around you. And sometimes a glass of wine just doesn't do it. So we hope you'll join us for that program once we get that date set. If you're interested in finding out about the reopening of schools, we will not be discussing that tonight. However, the board will be discussing that tomorrow at their meeting. Open session starts at 3:30. My guess is that they won't get to the reopening conversation until closer to 6 or so. But if you want to make a public comment, you do need to send it over to superintendent@pusd.us prior to the start of the meeting. So we hope that if you have feelings about that, which I'm sure you do, that you will participate in that. Remember, PEN is a 501c3 nonprofit organization, and those of you who join us at our events, we haven't had any this year, so we hope you'll consider making a donation to us on our website. And now I'm going to introduce Susan Schwartz, our program director, and Laura Diaz-Allen, our parent engagement director, who will take the program from here.
Okay. Thank you, Nancy. This is Susan Schwartz, and I am, as Nancy said, the program director for PEN. And I'm just going to actually just go through a few housekeeping details and an overview of our agenda for tonight, and then I'll turn it over to our presenter. So I'm going to go ahead. Laura, did you want to just say hello and introduce yourself as well quickly?
Sure. So hi, I am Laura. I am the Parent Engagement Director for PEN, and I have 2 teenagers, so I'm in the same boat. And I've been helping to put tonight's program together. So welcome.
All right, I'm going to go ahead. Let's see if this works. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And I am going to see if I can just show a small active speaker video. There we go. So So supporting our teens' mental health are a few housekeeping messages. If you are coming to this program and you did not sign up on our website before, that's fine. But if you would like to receive follow-up information, link to the slides, recording, other materials and resources, if you would please at some point put your name and email into the chat. If you already signed up for this program ahead of time on our website, we already have your information, so you don't need to do that. But if you're just coming to us this evening for the first time, that would be a good way for you to get that information. We will be, let's see, we will be taking questions at the end. I'm going to go ahead and sort of put up the agenda here. We have a presentation from Rebecca Boche, who has worked as a therapist in school-based counseling programs for kindergarten through high school students. She works as a family therapist in private practice and also works with Young and Healthy Pasadena, a local nonprofit organization, as a mindfulness educator. So she's going to be walking us through the main part of our program that we begin with. We're going to be then, as she sorts of gets to the part where she talks about resources, when to get professional help and what resources are available, we're also at that point going to hear from Erica Villalbando, who is the manager of PUSD's mental health services. She'll talk a little bit about how what resources and what agencies work with our schools and are available to serve our families and our students. And then we have John Lynch is going to join us. He is a community schools specialist from the LA County Office of Education, working on site at Pasadena High School. So he'll talk a little bit about what that actually looks like on the ground at PHS, just to make things a little more concrete for us there. And then we're going to go and leave time at the end for questions and answers with everyone. So we will be doing that. So if you have questions that come to mind as you're hearing the presentation, go ahead and just jot those down in the chat box, and we'll try to cycle back and pick up your questions as well as any other additional questions that we get at the end. So I'm going to turn it over right now to Rebecca. And Rebecca, you want to go? Oops, what did I do? I went too far. Rebecca, you want to start us off?
Yes, thank you. So, hi, I'm Rebecca Boche. My colleague Melissa was going to be here as well, so you see her picture there too. Unfortunately, she wasn't able to make it, but I'm here representing for both of us. We work in private practice together at Anchor Children and Family Counseling, and we work with a lot of teens. So we thought that we could bring some of this information that we've been using to help teens and families during this time to this presentation. And like it was mentioned earlier, I also work at Young and Healthy, and I've been going into schools during this time virtually to meet with teens and teach them mindfulness strategies to help calm themselves down when dealing with such difficult life circumstances that we're all facing. So I'm hoping that some of that can be helpful as we go through the presentation.
Okay. Shall I go ahead? You can just tell me when to go to the...
Yeah, go ahead. I'm ready.
Okay.
All right. So during COVID, a lot of us are dealing with grief. There's a lot of different forms of loss we're experiencing. So it could be loss of loved ones who have gotten sick and passed away, but it can also be loss of experiences. So I know I was working with teens who didn't get to go to their high school graduation or their prom or other exciting events that they were looking forward to senior year. It's also been a loss for people starting out at new schools. I know I have some clients who are freshmen going to a new school where they don't know anybody. And so there's a loss of really getting to bond and meet people. And that's been a challenge to figure out, how can I make connections with my peers when I haven't been able to meet anyone. So there's a lot of change happening as well, in addition to that grief and loss. And that can feel scary. Change can feel scary. our daily lives are different in many ways. The fact that we're meeting online like this is different than we normally have a program. Even simple things like going to the grocery store has maybe become more complicated. I know some parents have shared with me, sometimes I just want to stop by the store on my way home from somewhere and pick something up quickly. And then I realize this is not a chore that I can manage in a quick amount of time. I'm going to have to stand in a line. It's going to take time. It's going to feel stressful. So even simple things can be very different in our daily lives. So we're all dealing with a lot of change. And that change can activate our nervous system, right? It can have an impact on how our brain's functioning. We're constantly feeling like we need to readjust for things and figure out new ways of doing things. So all that change and unpredictability can make our brains work overtime. We're also dealing with a lot of scary things happening in the world, that grief and loss we just talked about. And our brains can go into fight, flight, or freeze mode more often. So for some of us, when we're dealing with a stress response, we go into fight mode. We feel like I need to defend myself. I need to do something to protect myself. And it doesn't actually mean we get into physical fights with people all the time, but we might feel like we're walking around on a shorter fuse, or we might feel like we're really irritable, or we might feel like we want to push people away. We're just getting into that fight mode, and it can look different ways. We could also go into flight mode, which would be more like running away, avoiding things, but it can also look like overworking ourselves. And I think I'm guilty of this one most often. I go into flight mode. I think I'm really stressed about what's going on in the world, so I'm just gonna keep working. I'm just gonna book my schedule up so I have something going on and I don't have to think about all the things I'm worried about with COVID and the state of the world. So flight can also look like that. We try to overwork ourselves and just dive ourselves into something so we don't have to think about other things. And then we may also go into freeze mode. And that's more when we go into shutdown mode. We kind of block people out. We become more withdrawn. We might become couch potatoes, which I know I have been watching a lot more television than I used to, and also not moving as much as I used to. So that could be a form of freeze mode too. So our nervous system is getting activated by all of this grief, all of this change, and all of this stress that we're dealing with all the time. And I think we're all reaching a point, if we haven't already, where we're feeling pretty exhausted by this. This is lasting a long time. When the schools originally closed their doors and we started remote learning, I don't think any of us anticipated that we'd be here almost a year later. So we're feeling exhausted by all of this, which is making it really hard to keep going with everything. We can go to the next slide, yeah. So I also do a lot of work in the realm of trauma-informed care. With Young and Healthy, the mindfulness program that we started is informed by that. I also help with some trauma-informed care trainings. And we've been talking a lot about in our trainings about how COVID is interacting with trauma. It's really signaling neuroception threats where we're constantly assessing that we're in danger, right? And that's that fight, flight, or freeze mode I was just talking about. That's being set off all the time. And originally, that was helping us to survive that part of our brain, right? If a bear comes barreling in the room, it's helpful for that part of my brain to be activated so I can decide, do I need to fight the bear, hide from the bear, run away, play dead? But when we're constantly assessing our environment as dangerous, based on all the news we're hearing and all the things that we're being bombarded with COVID, then that chronic stress that we experience from going into that fight, flight, or freeze mode so often starts to have an impact on us and the way our brain functions and the way we feel physically and emotionally. So some of the key things we think that are triggering this neuroception threat more often is a sense of a loss of control. And a lot of times I've been talking with clients about it's helpful for us to think about what can we control and what can we not control. I can control how much news I'm taking in and when throughout my day. I can't necessarily control what's happening in the world, but I can control how much I'm taking in of what I'm hearing about it. I may not be able to control what some of my friends and family members are choosing to do about what feels safe or not, but I can decide what's my boundary of what feels safe or not, right? So there's things we can think about with this loss of control. What can we control? Because we know that that's causing a lot of stress for us. And then feeling unsafe, right? We all have the worries about getting sick and what feels safe or unsafe. So that's putting our brain into that fight, flight, or freeze mode, of course. Our lack of routine can also be affecting us. So I know when the pandemic first started and I was working from home, I was thinking, maybe I don't need to do my hair. Maybe I can wear some yoga pants and no one will know and I can feel more comfortable. Maybe I'll get up just right before my meeting instead of taking the time to really drink my tea and eat my breakfast. And I realized that was not working for me, right? I thought it was like treating myself and doing something nice and good, but I wasn't as present during work. And I realized it was affecting my emotional well-being. I wasn't feeling as good at the end of the day if I spent it the whole day in yoga pants and not feeling ready for my day. So that lack of routine can be really challenging too. So we want to see how we can still create some sense of normalcy with routines as we're working through this time. And then all the big feelings we're feeling can be very overwhelming to us. So feeling unsure, feeling upset, uncomfortable, unsafe, worried, disappointed, lonely. I'm sure some of these have been coming up for you. I know the kids are talking to me about these, feeling lonely, feeling worried, feeling upset. So a lot of this is coming up for many of us, and that's why we want to try to respond to it in a trauma-sensitive way. So you may have noticed some of these symptoms that might come up when we have this chronic exposure to our fight, flight, or freeze mode in our brains. You might notice that because your brain is working so hard to assess for these threats and go into that protective mode, your sleep might be weird, right? Maybe some of you are sleeping more than you usually do, or you're having a hard time sleeping, just feeling like your sleep routines are thrown off. Maybe you can't remember stuff as well, like you're forgetting things, forgetting to sign on to meetings, or forgetting what other things you need to get done, feeling more forgetful. That could be coming up. Your attention span could also be shorter. So you notice you're getting distracted more easily. You're not able to be as productive in getting things done. Your attention's jumping around a lot. And then our eating habits might also have shifted, right? Are we eating more than usual? We're going to get snacks all the time in between our breaks, between Zoom meetings, or maybe we're forgetting to eat. We're not eating enough because we don't have those regular meal times, or we're overscheduling our days thinking, well, I don't have to go anywhere. I don't have to schedule a break, but we still really need those breaks. And we need to take care of our basic needs like eating healthy and sleeping. So some of these things you may have noticed, and those could be signs to you or signs that you're seeing in your teens that are showing us that they're being impacted by this. So we want to have some time for us to go in the room so you can discuss what have you been struggling with your family, with your teens. Have you noticed any of the things I just mentioned? Or did hearing about those things make you think about what's going on in your house differently? And then maybe you can share some things that have been challenging and also some things that have been successful, because we can learn from each other too. If we're all dealing with this, what are some ways you figured out that are helpful with your kids that I could maybe try with mine? So I think, Susan, you're gonna help us with the breakout rooms, right? Oh, you're muted.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Right. So Jeff, our host, we forgot to mention Collaborate Pasadena. Jeff Albert is hosting us tonight, and he is going to put us into breakout rooms so that we can share with each other. And I just wanted to check first whether there is anybody here who either needs to be in a Spanish language room or would be able to participate in a Spanish language room. If you could maybe just in the chat, just type your name so that we can put Spanish speakers into one room together. And I'm looking to see if that's, do we have anybody? So, okay, so it looks like we have a couple of people. Jeff, are you able to see that?
Yes, so give me about a minute and I will have these all set up.
Okay. Yeah,
Right.
so I think we're going to take about 15 minutes in our breakout rooms just to share and hear from everybody. If you don't mind turning your camera on, that's great. It's make it a little easier to connect, but you don't have to. It's up to you.
Well, and we were hoping that somebody could just jot down some of the main themes or notes so we can share afterwards. Is that what we're still doing?
Yeah,
Or are
I
we
think
not
that would
doing
be great.
Yeah.
Okay, just don't do it in the chat because that disappears, we learned last time. So if you have a piece of paper, just write it down. And if not, put it in your head if there's still any room. Okay.
Okay, so did you say 15 minutes? Is that what we're doing, or 20?
I think let's try 15.
Okay. All right, so let's see here. I am opening the rooms.
And you're going to put Laura with the Spanish room.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Is everybody back? I think you have to, let's see. You're going to have to choose your language again in the interpretation channel. There you go.
Okay. Well, I know my group was talking about a lot of great themes and saw some connections and shared some success stories. I want to hear what some of the other groups were saying too. So I don't know if anyone wants to share out that was taking notes for their group, what you're noticing.
I took notes from my group because I do not have teenagers at home, so it was easier for me to take notes and listen. And it did seem like the social isolation is really, really difficult for the students. But some of the things that were discussed, there was a lot of things discussed, but some things were that a Google Home or an Alexa, something like that, setting timers for the students was helpful because a lot of parents are working from home or working outside the home, and it creates a lot of stress for parents if they have to remember when to tell their students to do things. So if you can set some kind of timers, that helps. There's a lot of anxiety, frequent meltdowns, you know, kind of how do you establish that different mindset that we just are going to get through this rather than worrying about excelling at school this year. There was a question about what do you do about social media, that typically for this age group, maybe you wouldn't be encouraging it, but is that a good thing right now? Because that makes them feel less socially isolated and let them connect with their friends. One of the students gets on FaceTime to work on projects with other classmates, and that seems to make them feel more connected, because in the classrooms, the district doesn't require students to have their cameras on, so you don't even feel connected necessarily in a classroom. Everybody misses their friends, and one of the other things they talked about was how do you get teenagers to get out of the house, where kids who used to be active and used to want to do things, now they really don't want to. And so how do you encourage them to get out of the house and do things? They don't want to do it with their parents. They want to do it with their friends. So chime in, anybody who was in my group, if I didn't capture anything that was critical.
Thank you for sharing all that. I heard a lot of similar themes in my group too. I'm wondering if another person wants to share.
I'm happy to share. Yeah. Do you want to go, Anira?
Yeah, it's Leslie. That's my daughter's name. She renamed it. I don't know how to change it back.
At least you're not a cat.
So I'm going to just say that we have two of our Penn board members here, Leslie, who is identified as Anira, and also Jen, who is identified as Jennifer. There are Penn board members, so proceed.
At least you're not a cat, Leslie.
Yeah, do I show up as a cat? I don't know.
No.
Okay. One never knows. Okay, so in our group, there was comments about things that worked in the beginning of all of this aren't working now, and sort of, you know, I think that dovetails with the fact that in some ways it's getting harder and harder for the kids, and it's harder for them to focus. Screen time limits have sort of gone out the window because it's their only way to connect with other people. And sometimes there's a lack of interest even in being with other people because you can't hug your friends, you know, you can't do the normal things with them. So in some ways that's harder, I think, for the kids. Some of the kids are, you know, I mean, they're definitely lonely and missing some of the school things like sports that they were wanting to participate in, missing, especially for like incoming ninth graders and stuff, missing joining those groups and meeting new friends and stuff. And then, but some of the kids have some outdoor, you know, sports type activities that are still ongoing in a safe distance, and that seems to be helping them. In some cases, kids have connected in new ways with relatives or friends that they had lost contact with or hadn't had the opportunity to participate with as much. So that's been kind of nice. Then the other thing that came up, I think, was that there seems to be a couple of us who are wondering how do we distinguish between normal teen behavior, perhaps, and issues due to COVID, because we're experiencing some of those changes that we probably expect, but we're not sure if it's magnified because of COVID or, you know, what exactly is, how do we distinguish between the two? So I think that's most of it. If anybody in my group wants to chime in, and if I missed something, please do.
That's helpful. Thank you for sharing. And what a good question. It looks like others felt that too. What's normal and what's due to COVID?
We had the same question come up in the Spanish group about what's normal and what's COVID. We also had parents talking about how maybe kids started off okay, when we first went online and they were enthusiastic, but by now they're just really tired and they're losing steam. And some kids kind of went a little bit the other way in the sense that they got pretty bad, they got depressed and maybe parents missed it. But then, through putting some things in place, there's, and especially some limits, that they're starting to get better, and their grades are going up. In terms of strategies that we used, parents talking about having special time with just one kid. So like a teenage version of mommy and me, like just the two of you at a park or even grocery shopping or going to get, I don't know, a scoop of ice cream from McDonald's or something. Just the fact that, you're going someplace and just the two of you. Board games were very popular too, to get kids out of their rooms. So picking something that they like. What else did we have? Oh, and then also building some kind of structure so that, for example, having each kid take a night to pick the food that we're going to eat and either cook it or throw it, in a pan from the freezer. The point is to give kids some sense of control and just, kind of get them out of the room as much as possible. What did I miss? I feel like I missed something. Oh, and just going back, another strategy was to not talk about school during the weekend. I think that was it. Yeah, I think that was it. Just in general, just kids getting tired of school and everybody being on devices way too much.
Mm-hmm.
I'll go ahead and our group talked about some of the same things. One thing that came up for our folks was kind of like not wanting to push too hard on the academics, understanding that it's hard and you need to stay sane and find ways to connect with your friends, and that sometimes that's more important. But also, being a little concerned about not wanting their kids to just give up on school either, not wanting to just have it be, well, everything stops, because everything doesn't stop. And so wanting to somehow, I guess, I'm not putting this very well, so if somebody wants, Kim or Ms. V or anybody wants to jump in and say it better, but to build some resilience.
Emerge stronger, come out of this stronger than how they came into it. The pandemic is here. Kids have a lot of time on their hands, but life is still going on. And, I'm trying to stress to my son to be resilient from this, because there are going to be other things that he's going to have to go through in life. And this is just one of them.
Yeah. So some of the things that helped were, well, Kim says she gets her son out rollerblading for half an hour, whether he likes it or not, and that does him some good. And we had kids who were, doing Fortnite together and socializing that way, and sometimes that's helpful too. It's just hard. I think especially it's hard for both the teachers when kids have their screens off to know, how to teach and how to be effective at engaging, but it's also hard for the kids, both because it's kind of boring looking at a screen. The teachers don't always engage them effectively, and a little bit of chicken and egg that way, but also that they don't get to see their classmates, so they don't really get the sense that they know anybody in their classes is hard. Did I miss anything else? I probably did. Jonathan or Kim or Ms. V?
I think you got everything.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Did we hear from all the other groups, or is anyone else wanting to share? Okay. Well, I think ours is really similar to just hearing about some strategies. It was nice to share ideas. If you have a family movie night once a week where you can take turns picking what you watch, or doing some family game nights. things like that we talked about. And I know I have some more ideas in the presentation as we go along too, but a lot of similarities about allowing more screen time than usual so that kids can stay connected, and also worrying about wanting to help with academics, but also not wanting to push too hard, knowing that this is a difficult time. So a lot of similarities of what we've discussed.
Yeah.
So I think this was nice as a balance, hearing like, okay, what are the struggles? What are some ideas we've come up with so far? And before we go back into identifying signs of when to get help and sharing those resources, I think we wanted to do just a brief mindfulness exercise to help us shift the energy here. And since I am one of the mindfulness educators here, I thought I could help with that. So maybe we can do just a brief breathing technique to help us feel a little more calm and grounded going into the rest of this time together. In case this increased any of our stress levels, maybe this will help. So I was just going to guide us through doing a 4-7-8 breath. So the idea with this breathing technique is you're inhaling through your nose for a count of 4, holding the breath for a count of 7, and then breathing out through your mouth like for a count of 8. And the reason we do it like that is when we have a longer exhale than inhale, a longer time breathing out than in, that helps to signal to our brain and our body to go into resting mode. So we're going to take a few rounds of this 4-7-8 breath together and see if that helps us to calm ourselves down and feel a little bit more grounded. So I'll guide you through it, and I'll count with my fingers up here so you can follow along. So just get comfortable where you're sitting. You can close your eyes if you want, or you can look up here with me. We're going to inhale through our nose for a count of 4. Hold that breath for a count of 7. Out your mouth for a count of 8. Inhale for 4. Hold for 7. Out your mouth for 8. Inhale for 4. Hold for 7. Exhale for 8. One more. In for 4. Hold for 7. Exhale for 8. Okay. If you had eyes closed, you could open them up. Let your breath return to your natural breathing. And just checking in with yourself, seeing if just taking a few of those breaths did help to shift the energy or shift how you're feeling. This could be a tool that you use, or you could teach to your teens as well. It's a nice, quick way to reset and reground and help us to feel more calm. So just wanting to share one tool with you that you might want to choose to continue to use. Okay. Anyone want to share about how that was for them before we go on?
I thought that was great, and I'm definitely going to introduce that to the kids, like maybe before bed or something.
Yes, this can be a really helpful one for calming down before sleep, because like I said, it signals to your body to go into resting mode. So it can really help, and focusing your attention on your counting and your breath can also be really calming.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, I know we have more to look at too, so we can share those slides again. So some other strategies we can use to help with this are trying to make this unpredictable world we're living in a little bit more predictable. So what rituals or routines can you introduce into your family life? Whether it's setting those timers, I like that idea, right? That could help you keep on track with things. Or maybe having something you do before bedtime, like the 4-7-8 breath, making that a ritual that you have. Or maybe you have time where you watch a show together at night or do some reading before bed. Anything you can make feel a little bit more predictable, like I don't really know what's going to go on the rest of the day or with things going on around me, but I know that every night I'm going to watch a show with my mom before I go to bed. Or I know that every night we're going to have dinner together. Whatever you can make predictable and normal and set a routine can be really helpful. You can also talk your teens through doing some mental rehearsal. So this might even be thinking about if they're wondering, like, what is it going to be like when I get to see my friends again, or when we go back to school? Can they think about it, and can you talk it through with them so they feel a little bit more prepared? If you can share any information about what you do know, this is what it's going to look like, they might feel a little bit better. Or if they're nervous to go to, maybe you're visiting a family member or going to the grocery store and they're feeling worried about that, you can talk through, this is what it's going to look like. This is what we're going to do to help keep us safe while we have to do that. Also, playfulness and laughter. Play is really the opposite of worry, and laughter can release our nervous system arousal, so help us to relax as well. And even if you feel like, well, my teens are teens, they don't really want to play with me in the same way you're thinking that little kids do, you can still be silly and playful even if you can't play. I actually loved Lauren and her daughter in our breakout room. You two were joking and laughing with each other a lot. So I think we can be silly and playful and laugh, joking around with each other, even if we're not playing a game or doing something structured. But that silliness can help to lighten the mood. I hope it's okay I said that, Lauren. I thought that was really sweet. Also nonverbal cues, right? So our facial expression, our posture, our tone of voice, that's something we can try to be attentive to and how we're communicating with our teens as well. So if we're looking totally burnt out and exhausted, then that's going to send a certain message too. And I was just talking with a parent earlier today about how she had been saying some things like, I just don't even want to have the same argument I keep having with my daughter all the time about doing her homework. I just don't even care anymore. And she said she had been talking to another friend who was a parent of a teenager about this. And she said, well, what do you think that is going to make your daughter feel like? And she started to cry a little bit because she thought, she's going to think that I don't care anymore, that I've given up. So why would she keep working on it if I've given up? So how we talk about things, our facial expression, our posture, that can mean a lot more beyond the context of what we're saying. And then name it to tame it. This is just helping to narrate what feelings are coming up. Sometimes teens don't always communicate their feelings super well, especially I know teen boys, that's a hard topic a lot of time to talk about. So can we narrate that for them, help to name whatever they're feeling and say, I know this is hard right now, or I understand you're probably feeling upset that you can't go do the things you want to do. If we can name it for them, that can also help them to feel like they can better deal with it. And then showing up with the 4 S's. So this is a Dan Siegel and Tina Bryson tactic. We want to help our teens feel secure by helping them feel seen, safe, and soothed. So I like to think about this when we're talking about young kids or babies, it's a lot easier, right? If a baby's crying, we can make them feel seen, safe, and soothed by going to them, picking them up, and rocking them, right? That's pretty easy. But with a teenager, it's harder. We have to get a lot more creative. I can't go swoop up a teenager and rock them back to sleep when they're upset. We have to get a lot more creative about how we help them to feel seen, safe, and soothed. They may not want a hug from us, right? Some teens might like that comfort and that support, but some don't. They want their space. And so can we just help them feel soothed by saying, I know how you feel right now, or I'm here for you, or this is hard, right? There's other ways that we can offer them some soothing and helping them to feel seen and understood in order to build up that security. And those supportive relationships, whether it's with you or some other adult in their lives, make stress more tolerable. So there's so much research to support that, right? Having one caring adult in a teen or child's life can make all the difference. Here's how we get to how we're talking about things, fear versus safety messages. So how we give the messages should focus on staying safe. So thinking about how you've talked about how to stay safe during the pandemic with your teens can be important. So thinking about, can you shift from, we're not seeing friends right now because it's dangerous and we can get sick. Can you rephrase that to, we're not seeing friends right now because it's safest for us to stay home, right? Thinking about all the different ways you talk about it, instead of saying, you need to wash your hands or else you could have germs on them and get sick. Can you say, washing your hands is the best way to keep yourself safe? So just trying to make those slight shifts in talking about safety in a way where you're really talking about the safety part instead of the fearful, dangerous part. I think this is going to be really, really important in how we talk to kids and helping them to prepare for when the world starts to open back up again after all this time of not doing so many things. Mobilization. So helping them to feel mobilized, whether that's doing something, volunteering, reaching out to others, right? Can you encourage them to call a friend if they're feeling lonely? Or can you have them think about if they're really passionate about something and they want to help people because they're worried? Are there ways they can volunteer? I know Young and Healthy has a teen volunteer program too, where we help kids get involved. Also rethinking discipline, which from what I was hearing you all share in your breakout rooms, it sounds like you were thinking about this differently already. Can I see times where I maybe normally would have gone to discipline as opportunities for teaching and skill building, right? How can we problem solve together? How can we think of what we can learn from this moment? I loved what I think it was Kim said earlier about teaching them how to build resilience, right? Teaching them that they can get through hard things. And that kind of goes into the next one too, culture of competence and confidence, trying to really create that in your household, saying things like, we've got this. This is hard, but we can get through this. Having that narrative and that encouragement can be really powerful. And it's okay if even you have to fake it a little bit till you make it right now. If you're not feeling that way all the time, if we can still help that for our boys and our teens, that will be great. I just said boys because I saw your comment, Laura, pop up, but she said 4S is for teen boys. Food, you look a little tired. Would you like a cup of cocoa, some fruit, a snack to get through this homework? Listen to them talk about whatever game, video, trying to actually care. I love this. These are really good ideas. So we have to get creative, right? And then I want you to also think about strategies for yourself as the adults in the home. And I know you're going to have a whole other presentation on that you can go to, it sounds like. But telling yourself it's okay to give myself a break and to adjust my expectations of myself and my teen right now. And I know my group was talking about that. Expectations are different right now, and that's okay, because this is really hard. Trying to meet basic needs like eating well, sleeping, trying to get exercise, turning off the TV sometimes and going outside. I like the idea of just going for a walk or a drive, even just because it gets you out of the house. Even just taking lunch outside, right? Instead of eating inside the house, can you eat outside the house if you have a space for that? I know that was really hard for me when the pandemic started. I live in an apartment and I had no outdoor space, except for we have this tiny little pathway between a railing before it goes down to the garage. And we found the tiniest table and tiniest chairs that we could put there. And that has pulled me and my husband out of our apartment so we can at least go eat outside sometimes. And I'm so glad that we chose to do that, even though it seems so ridiculous and I have to squeeze up against the bar to get to my seat. It's just nice to pull me outside. Finding creative ways and safe ways to maintain social connections. And I know some people in my group were sharing there's ways that maybe I've found for my team to socially distancing with their friends, like going on a bike ride with masks or something like that. Starting a book series. I love that idea. Someone put in the chat. That could be great. Using scheduling and goal setting, like I was talking about, feeling more forgetful. I've been using lists and planners a lot more than I ever used to. And I'm old school. I like to write it down rather than put it in my phone. That just helps me keep track of my day. And then checking in with yourself, deciding, do I need some time for reflection or journaling? Or maybe I want to go to therapy to get support during this time. That's okay too. And it could actually really model for your teens that is something you can do to get support when you need it. And then forgiving and offering grace to yourself and others when things don't go the way you were hoping, and being compassionate and practicing moments of mindfulness. I know as a mindfulness instructor, I might be a big proponent of mindfulness, but I also don't like that during the pandemic, there was this like competitive culture at first of like, what are you gonna do with your extra time during the pandemic? Are you gonna go on this crazy diet and lose all this weight? Or are you gonna start meditating every day? And I don't want you to feel like you have to take on this huge feat, but can you just find little moments of time where you can take a breath, just like we did, just practicing for a few breaths? That could still be helpful. And then we've already talked about some of these ideas, but I know Melissa and I came up with these earlier. Can you make theme nights for your family, have dance parties or just music parties, right? Deciding what are we going to listen to today while we're cooking dinner. Right. Maybe you want to do things like a yoga practice or have a date night. I think someone mentioned that too, like maybe we have a mom-son night together, and it makes it feel different than always being around all the family all the time, having those different pairings where you can hang out together. Trying to develop routines. We talked about that too. Giving people space sometimes and not taking that personally. I know I've talked about that with a lot of families too. And teens have said, why can't I just be in my room by myself sometimes? I don't want to be around everyone all the time. I can never leave. So taking some time to give them space when they're asking for it. And it doesn't mean that they don't like you or they have anything against you, but that is a normal part of teen development, is wanting more privacy and wanting to be around peers more than parents. And right now they're struggling to find a space to do that. Having family check-ins or maybe family meetings where you can see how everyone's doing, plan out your week. And then we talked about volunteering as well. So I like some suggestions in the chat. Maybe at first you have to use some force to go outside, but then usually they end up enjoying it, whether it's skateboarding or riding bikes. Using let's talk cards for teens. Each card contains a single question that sets up a conversation between the teen and the parent. Giving space and having a thing where the kid can indicate if they're in class, need space, etc. Awesome ideas. Lauren, did you also want to share something? Oh, you're muted.
I like the idea of the let's talk teen cards. I've never seen those.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks for sharing that suggestion. I also know there's something called the Ungame, which is basically like that. It has a lot of conversation starting cards.
Oh, okay.
It's a word game. So that's another one, the Ungame.
The Ungame, okay.
We'll share all the suggestions afterwards, so
okay.
Don't worry. Try to
Oh, great. Okay, cool.
So, my friend,
So I'm glad we could share a lot of these tips with each other. Hopefully that's giving all of us some new ideas too.
Okay.
So here we get to, when do we seek out professional help? Of course, you can get support at any time, and I'm a big fan of therapy as a therapist, so I know I'm biased, but there may be some symptoms or symptoms that are building up that tell us we really need to get help now. And hopefully we're going to go over anxiety and depression, because those are some of the most common things you're likely seeing. And that might help you to differentiate between, is this normal or is this COVID adding extra stress and other symptoms to my teen's life? So depression symptoms.
Oops, I'm sorry. Back up.
That's okay. Depression symptoms. In order to meet criteria for having a depressive episode, you'd want to see that this is something that's lasting longer than 2 weeks, right? It's not a normal shift in emotion of just feeling sad sometimes and sometimes not, but it's persisting for longer than 2 weeks. And what you'll notice for some of the symptoms are loss of interest or pleasure in certain activities. So maybe they're not wanting to go play sports when they used to, or they're not wanting to play video games. They're feeling sick of it, even though that was what they loved doing. They're not wanting to go out or play in the yard like they used to, right? You're noticing a loss of interest in certain activities that they used to enjoy. Change in appetite or weight. So we talked about that. There may be strange eating habits, sleep disturbances, feeling agitated or irritated or like they're slowed down, fatigue, low feelings of self-worth, guilt, or shortcomings. So maybe they're saying things like, I'm stupid, or I don't understand why I can't do this, talking badly about themselves, having difficulty concentrating or making decisions. And of course, it would definitely be concerning and something you always want to seek out support if they're disclosing suicidal thoughts or intentions. Maybe not even just saying explicitly things like, I want to kill myself, but if they're saying things like, I don't want to be here, or what's the point, those would definitely raise concern. And I would encourage you to seek out professional help. So there's also, I know, the link on this slide too to NAMI, which you can look at as well. And I think we have listed in our resources at the end. So those are depression, things you want to look out for with depression. Anxiety disorders, there's different anxiety disorders that have unique symptoms, but here's some of the most common ones you'll see. So all anxiety disorders are when someone is experiencing persistent and excessive fear or worry in situations that are not threatening. So that's like I was talking about, when a bear comes into the room and we do things to protect ourselves, that's helpful. But if we're having that reaction when there's no bear in the room, often or almost all the time, then that's going to start to wear on us. And then we might start thinking about, is this anxiety? Because I'm always feeling anxious, even when there's not something dangerous happening around me. So those emotional symptoms that go along with anxiety disorders are feelings of apprehension or dread, like, oh, I'm dreading having to get up and do online school again tomorrow. Feeling tense or jumpy, restlessness or irritability, anticipating the worst and being watchful for signs of danger. So always thinking the worst thing is going to happen. And it could be talking about COVID stuff, right? I'm going to go out and get sick, or you're going to go out and I'm worried you're going to get sick. Always thinking the worst. Physical symptoms with anxiety are things like a racing heart or feeling like your heart's beating really heavy and fast, shortness of breath or difficulty breathing, sweating, shaking or twitching, having headaches or fatigue or insomnia. So again, seeing some disruption in sleep, either someone's overly tired or can't sleep because they're constantly thinking about things. And you may see some physical symptoms like an upset stomach or nausea or having to go to the bathroom a lot, whether that's for urinating or having something like diarrhea. So digestive issues could also come up. So those are signs you can look out for anxiety. So if, as I was talking through some of that you were thinking, oh, I'm concerned, this might involve, or my team might have some of these things, and I'm concerned that they may need some professional help. We want to share some resources so you know how you can help your teen during this time. So I put some books here to list that I thought could be helpful. So if you're wanting to start out just by educating yourself and learning more, these could be helpful. So I have some by, I know I mentioned Dan Siegel and Tina Payne Bryson throughout the presentation. Brainstorm is a great book about how the adolescent brain works. The Power of Showing Up is a great book about parenting. The Self-Driven Child, that could be helpful for helping your teen to be motivated during this time. The Opposite of Worry, that could be helpful if they're feeling anxious. And then if you're noticing issues with inattention and lack of motivation and executive functioning stuff, Melissa, my co-presenter, she has a book on ADHD in teens and young adults. And it's like a workbook that you can work through with your teens. So that might be of interest to some of you as well. Resources. So going to your pediatrician and asking them for support can be helpful. Young and Healthy can also connect you to resources. So if you're wanting your child to go to therapy, but you're not really sure how to get them connected with a therapist through your insurance, they can help you to navigate that process. If you don't qualify for some of the services we're going to hear about that are offered through the school, they could maybe help connect you to a therapist that's lower fee or who's willing to donate some services pro bono with clients. So Young and Healthy could be a place to call for that. NAMI is where we were citing if you want to read more about those symptoms to look out for, you may want to go on their website. Local therapists, I have a link to our website at Anchor Children and Family Counseling. So we see a lot of teens in our practice, and it's a group practice. So it's me and Melissa, but also several other therapists with different specializations, some art therapists, some drama therapists. I do a lot of mindfulness, so we try to all bring our creative techniques to our practice as well.
Rebecca, and I left their ad from Amy's list. We have a list that we got from a social worker that came to talk to us on Saturday. So when we send in resources to the group, we'll include something a little bit more comprehensive. That's what that is.
Okay, great. I was wondering what that note meant, so I'm glad you mentioned it. Okay. A Place Within is another local practice that you could look at. And then we listed some therapy directories where you could look up a therapist, like Psychology Today. You can put filters on it that show you which therapists take your insurance. Therapy Den and Good Therapy are good listings as well. Open Path is a cool listing that is sliding scale. So it's between $30 and $60 a session with private practice therapists. So that might be something that's accessible for some. So different directories and options there. But I know we're going to transition to hearing about how you can get therapy through the school as well. So I'll make sure that we can talk about that as well.
Okay. Thank you so much, Rebecca. We're gonna we're a little behind our original schedule, but we're going to take some time to have Erica Villalbando tell us about the resources that are available through PUSD, and an example of what it looks like for on a site level for PHS, and then we'll take questions. And again, all the resources that are being mentioned, all the ideas that show up in the chat box, we will put all those together and share them with you afterwards via email, which is why if you haven't already given me your email, either when you signed up for the program or if you put it in the chat, be sure to do that so that we can follow up with you and get you these resources. Erica, are you ready to join us?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Well, hi everyone. Good evening. I'm Erica Villalbando. I'm a licensed clinical social worker, and I've been working in the field of mental health and in school-based mental health services for the past 15 years. I've worked with PUSD for a really long time. Previously, I was a full-time therapist many years ago with an agency, Foothill Family Service, and now here I am with PUSD. We have a mental health program, and I'm the manager of that program. So we are one of very few in LA County. We are a program, a mental health program embedded within the school district that has a contract with the Department of Mental Health, with the LA County Department of Mental Health. So our program services students who have Medi-Cal. And then we have another mental health program, which Laura Chulakian, she's also an LCSW, and she's the manager of that program. So we've got two mental health programs embedded within the district. And so the other thing that we do, we work together. But one of the things that we do is Laura is actually the coordinator of what we call a mental health consortium, which includes several agencies that have worked with the district for many years and who provide services to the Pasadena families and neighborhoods in the community, and they are primarily as well agencies who service students with Medi-Cal. However, these agencies are a lot bigger than our small program, and they also have one agency can also service students with private insurance, particular private insurance. Other programs, other agencies also have different programs that may be able to service underserved or uninsured students at PUSD. So there's a lot of resources that come out of this consortium. It's really great. We meet monthly and we're constantly talking about the needs of PUSD in the community. And yeah, you're looking at this great grid, which kind of gives you an idea of what to do in emergency services and lets you know if you have Medi-Cal, what's the best way to seek help and assistance. And Laura Chulakian's email is there. She's available for any questions as well. And then our email for our program is mentalhealth@pusd.us. So it's pretty easy to remember. You can send any questions my way as well. We can absolutely be here to help. We work with all of these agencies, including Hathaway Sycamores, Foothill Family, as I mentioned, Young and Healthy. We work together with Young and Healthy as well. They're, as you know, they're a community-based organization. We work very closely with them. These are the schools. In terms of middle schools and high schools, what we do as the consortium is we split the schools amongst the agencies, and that's been the agreement for a really long time. And so you can see here on the screen the middle and high schools and who services these middle and high schools. For example, John Muir High School is serviced by DeVille Family. Washington, 5 Acres is there. We're also, PUSD Mental Health is also at Washington. Elliott Middle School has Foothill Family and PUSD Mental Health. Pasadena High School has Hathaway Sycamores. And as you can see, Rose City has Pacific Clinics. And then it'll list all of the ones for PUSD Mental Health. We also have Hillsides at Washington. So the goal of all of these agencies in the consortium is that no child who seeks out services is just going to go by the wayside. We're either going to be able to provide the service or we're going to help link them to the services. And it might mean a conversation with you as the parents. What insurance do you have? Have you reached out? Have you talked to the pediatrician? Really helping you. It might be linking you to Young and Healthy so they can help you navigate this, massive insurance health maintenance organization system. Or as was mentioned, all of those websites might have therapists that can service, that can provide service based on your private insurance. So yeah, we're all listed there. So how do you get help from the school? One of the first steps is to talk to the school administration. So reach out to the principal, reach out to the school counselor, and they should be able to link you to us, give you some information. But again, the links to these agencies based on the school that your child is at, you can also do that. If you're totally lost, you can email Laura Chulakian. You can email me at mentalhealth@pusd.us, and ask us any question. And we're definitely here to help you out. That is for certain. There's been a big need during the pandemic. I just wanted to add one of the things that I heard, and we've heard repeatedly, is how do you distinguish, when is it time to get help? How do you distinguish from typical behavior and concerning behavior? And, you know, as Rebecca mentioned, one of the things to look out is if functioning is impaired. The way I like to explain it to parents is your child doing their jobs, which are, you know, are they satisfying their jobs, which are to be a student, to be a son or daughter, a child? Are they being a good friend? Are they being a good cousin? You know, whatever that is, are they doing it okay? Are they doing it well, or is there an issue? Is there some impairment in their functioning or some significant distress? I also want to say, you know, think about your child. What's typical for them? You might have a very shy, quiet child who's, I don't know, maybe doesn't like to try new experiences, and now things are exacerbated, but you know their baseline, you know kind of where they are when they're functioning, you know, as typically for them. Just look out for when they're not doing those things well. They're not being a good student. And you know what I mean by good, you know, they're not satisfying what they need to. They're isolating from friends, maybe at home with parents and families. They're just arguing and just being very irritable, maybe excessively worried. So I just wanted to say that and add that to that.
Thank you. Thank you. And when you, just to mention, usually these agencies would be seeing the students in a school setting maybe, but now it's all being done through telehealth. It's all being done remotely. So that's, or typically it's being done remotely. Is that correct?
Yes, typically everything is done remotely at this time. It's on a case-by-case basis where these agencies will provide in-person services. We are still definitely telehealth because the schools aren't open yet. So that's where we normally see our kids. But yeah, if you have any questions, please, you know, feel free to reach out.
Okay. Thank you so much to both of our presenters. We are at 8:30 already, so we have run a little bit longer than we meant to, but I think the information has been really helpful. So we were going to take a moment to take a look at what one school in particular, PHS, is doing, but as in terms of coordinating the mental health services at their site. But rather than do that, I think we'll see if we can take questions. And I'm also going to put in a minute, I'm going to put the link to our participant evaluation survey in the chat, so that if you have a chance to give us some feedback, we'd really appreciate it. I know some of our speakers need to go and take care of little ones, and some of you may have other things you need to get to, but if you want to ask some questions, we'll take a few more minutes, and some of us will try to stay on and answer some questions for a little while.
Susan, I just want to, there was a 3-minute video I was going to share. I will, Jeff has the link. If you can put it on resources, it's a really impactful 3-minute video of what kids might be dealing with at this time. It's called
thank you.
It's by Lynch McNeil. It's a great little 3 minutes. It's very impactful.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Welcome.
Yeah, so we're going to share all these resources out, but let me just I'm going to just go ahead and type the Laura, do you want to just kind of look through the chat and see if there are any questions that we haven't touched on yet while I type the survey?
Yeah, I think one thing that came up was when you have teens who are different kinds of people and you end up, you know, kind of telling one not to worry and lighting a fire under the other one because they're in just such different places. And, you know, and we have different kids. So, you know, I think it's fine to support them in whatever way they need, right? Yeah, I have the same thing at home. One, don't worry, and the other one, why aren't you more worried? So there was a question about what would be a good place to go to if you have a family history of mental illness, if you're concerned about, whether your children might need some support. Would these agencies be able to help with that?
Does any, Rebecca or Erica, do either of you want to field that?
Yes. So the question is, if you have a history of mental health, would these agencies be able to help you? The specific question is just to kind of talk about that or get an assessment.
Yeah, I think it's to a place where to go find out more about early signs of mental health disorders if there's already a family history of that. So whether a place to go learn or if any of the agencies that you mentioned would be able to help with that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think reaching out to the agencies, like I said, we'll definitely make sure that the list has all the emails and contact phone numbers. Definitely calling in. We work with referrals. We always need a referral. And so it might be calling these agencies and saying, hey, I need some help, some information. We have a history of this particular mental illness. They might have groups that are supportive for that. I know NAMI has they have such a resource, and they actually have groups all about kind of getting to know and getting familiar with mental illness and things like that. So yes, all of these agencies, including NAMI, including Young and Healthy, can help out.
It's good to know. Thank you.
Yeah, I agree. And I was going to say NAMI might be a great place to start because you can just look at the resources they have on their website and then think about getting connected to any groups or seeing any therapist.
Yeah, and we will share that link. So yeah. Looking to see if we have any other questions here.
I think that's it for questions. I did want to read something that occurred to me yesterday for some reason, that mental health can be a little bit like being cold, right? You don't wait until you are just about frozen to think about getting some more layers. And so even though we say that there are times when you must get help, you can get help anytime where you feel like you need it. So I think some visual example like that is helpful. Sometimes to people who are not very comfortable talking mental health issues, it's like, well, you wouldn't go out like that in the cold. Of course, my teens would, right? But, normal people don't go out in the cold without grabbing a jacket. So just wanted to share that with you.
There was a mention in the chat about whether there are any plans to conduct a teen support group where teens can interact and share experiences and their frustrations, and that's a great idea. I haven't heard of one, but we will put the word out and kind of try to gather some intelligence on that. And if anybody knows of something,
I do. There is at least one for boys that a friend recommended, so I'll dig that up and put it in the resources too. And if you find out, let us know if there's another one.
Yeah, so also, at particular schools, for example, interns from our program are currently running a group for middle schoolers at Blair. They ran a group for middle schoolers at McKinley. And we're the primary agency provider at those schools. So calling those agencies and asking, but definitely checking in with the school counselors and saying, hey, is there a group that's going on right now? Because there's definitely interns that we have who are conducting groups and facilitating groups, and also staff. And sometimes these agencies, all of these agencies in the consortium, have ongoing groups.
Yeah. So maybe one thing would be if we could gather some information about what agencies have going on already at the schools and encourage them to share that out or see about how the schools communicate about that information. I know we have John Lynch. Do you want to sort of introduce yourself quickly and say a few words about what you're doing at PHS?
Sure. Yeah, I'm John Lynch. I'm a PUSD parent, first and foremost, like you all, but also the community school specialist at Pasadena High School. And so really just trying to create opportunities for young folks to do enrichment opportunities and try to stay connected. So we're connecting some young people from the CAMAD program academy to art center classes. Have a partnership going with Yale and UConn to run a class called Psychology and the Good Life. Got about 60 kids taking that college course, so some other opportunities like that too. And I'll also canvas some things too, and think about some connections to other community-based organizations. You didn't want me to talk about the mental health stuff.
I just want to say we are kind of past the time that we had said we were going to go. So I think we're going to, I would like you to, but I think we'll save it for another time. We'll include it in the slides that we're going to share with everybody. But I think we're gonna thank our presenters and Jeff for hosting us from Collaborate Pasadena. And if you have any, we hope again that you'll take a moment to do the participant survey and give us some feedback. If you think of questions that you didn't get a chance to ask and you want to just send them to us at pennfamilies.org, we'll try to help you connect with some answers. And I just want to thank everybody for being with us tonight and taking the time this evening, and I hope it's been helpful. And if it's been helpful and you have the means and can make a contribution to Penn to help support our ongoing work, we are a nonprofit organization independent of the district, and that would be great. So thank you.
Thank you. I just want to leave you with go and do something nice to with your teenager to your teenager this week. Something peaceful and happy, if they'll let you.
All right.
Good to see everyone.
Everybody. Take
Thank
care.
you, everyone. Have a good evening.
Thanks.
Good night.